continuously the attacks are happening. Iran is being attacked, and similarly, the missile and drone attacks are happening in Israel. So, how are these nations even thinking of a peace plan or some sort of a ceasefire when there is no relenting on either side, Sanjay?
I agree with you, but the ceasefire between US and Iran will make a difference. What if US decides to back off? And that is what is being talked about, that they take a step back and Iran takes a step back. And this will be between the US and Iran. And Israel may not matter because Israel will automatically back off. And I just think even Iran is not asking for any kind of ceasefire between Iran and Israel for that matter.
I'm saying, according to what Donald Trump tweeted yesterday on Truth Social, that it's going to be a day which is going to be wrapped in one. That is, the electricity grid and the bridges will be attacked. Now, do you think, you were saying that America might think of backing off? So are they going to back off, or are they going to escalate it further? Because if you remember, just few days ago, he said that America will be striking hard in the coming 2 to 3 weeks. That's what Trump's address to the nation was all about.
I mean, my contention all through has been that the US would not be backing off, and they will go ahead and bash Iran.
These conflicting statements by Donald Trump, I mean, is he interested in totally blowing up Iran, or is he really wanting to back off? And how is Israel going to react in all of this? Do you think that Israel wants to end the war?
I don't think Israel was ever keen to end the war. In fact, all through the submission was that Israel wants US to continue. In fact, they want a long-term war which diminishes Iran quite a bit and raises the profile of Israel in that region. So if you look at it in the Middle East, there will be only one power which is still standing, and others would be part of the Abraham Accord of people who are close to Israel.
Hello and a warm welcome to HW News Network, your one-stop show, truth be told, for some engaging and thought-provoking conversations. President Donald Trump has now threatened major strikes on Iran's energy infrastructure and bridges ahead of his latest deadline to open the Strait of Hormuz. And he also used an expletive, to which everyone is surprised. People in America, people elsewhere across the globe are commenting as to what was the need for President Donald Trump to use an expletive. He referred to Islam in that post. Then he described Iran's leadership as crazy. And this is what he wrote on the Truth Social. It sounds a little crass to even read it out, but I'll have to show you that tweet which was put out by Donald Trump. Now look what he has written. These are some very unparliamentary words which he's used. Tuesday will be the power plant day and bridge day, all wrapped up in one in Iran. There will be nothing like it. Open the strait, you crazy, or you'll be living in hell. Just watch. Praise be to Allah, President Donald J. Trump. So Republicans, American newspapers, they have lambasted this post put out by Donald Trump, because nobody had expected that the President of America will use such an abusive and a vituperative language. This is a new low in this 38 days of war, and the kind of tweets which have been put out by Donald Trump, especially on Truth Social. So he threatens, at the same time uses expletives. But parallelly, there are also reports that some sort of a ceasefire plan is also in progress. Now, Iran has actually said that they will not open the Hormuz Strait. They are saying that they are not engaging with US and Israel directly. But there were also reports that it was Pakistan, Egypt, and Turkey which were which were planning on some sort of a peace plan. So, what is really happening? And tomorrow it's Tuesday. If you look at the post which was put out by Donald Trump, he says that Tuesday is going to be a heavy day, all wrapped in one, where he plans to attack the energy infrastructure, the electricity grid, and also the bridges. Now, this would tantamount to a war crime. So, is Iran provoking Donald Trump to indulge into war crime? Not that he has not done it before. Remember the attacks on those innocent school children who were killed, the innocent school girls who were killed. That was also a war crime. But now he's doing it more and more brazenly. So the two big questions: is the ceasefire in the offing? Because today, as we speak, tonight at 10:30, which is about 8 a.m. American time, that Donald Trump is planning to hold a press conference. What he's going to say in the press conference, we do not know. But this comes close on the heels of this post which has been put out. Now, remember, when it is 10:30 in India, it's going to be morning time in America, a Monday morning when the markets will open up. So is this another tactics to influence the market again? And are we going to see the end of this war? People are talking about a ceasefire, but Iran is tight-lipped about anything which is related to a ceasefire. So which way is this war headed to? Joining me this evening is international affairs expert and veteran journalist Sanjay Kapoor joins us. Thank you so much, Sanjay, for joining. And the first question, of course, is related to the sad tweet which is put out by Donald Trump. Nobody had expected that he's going to use expletives while threatening Iran. Now, is this a new low in this 38 days of Iran-Israel war we are seeing?
Thank you, Neelu, for inviting me to speak here. I think abusing comes very naturally to Donald Trump. In fact, many of the US commentators have been talking about how he's been able to bring politics to a new low. It would have been laughable if there would not be, at the same time, some kind of thought that goes into the number of killings that have taken place, how the US government has gone about bombing Iranians for so long. So, it is a very painful thing that we have to see and endure. The fact of the matter is that the person who's showering or resorting to expletives is also somebody who's a war criminal. Not only did he kill the 168 girls, tiny girls in an Iranian school, but he's bombed so many civilian infrastructure, including the one bridge, which is one of the biggest in the Middle East, between Tehran and Karaj, which I've been to, was also blown up. So this is very painful. But I don't think Mr. Trump can be reined in. Mr. Trump is also trying to terrorize people by speaking in this manner. But I think he's really rattled by what Iranians have been able to do. They've been able to find out that if you don't show fear, if you don't show that they are afraid of his language or his conduct, it can rattle him more. And that is what exactly they are doing. Despite the fact there have been great amount of harm that the American forces, the war machine has been able to do in Iran. They killed many people. They killed about 2,500 odd people and more. But the fact is the Iranians have not backed down, and they maintain a certain kind of strength and integrity which they had not seen. In fact, there's great appreciation to the fact that Iranians announce what they're going to bomb and they do it. Unlike the Americans and the Israelis who just go random and start shooting down everything that they think can hurt the people of Iran. So, if you look at it, Iran morally seemed to be superior than Trump, and that is really hurting Mr. Trump quite a bit. In fact, there is a desperation on his part to somehow find a way to call a ceasefire. You were mentioning about the press conference that he might be doing. There is also a talk that he might address a conference tomorrow in which he would detail, in fact, unveil whatever has been discussed. I'm told that there is a great role that has been played by Mr. General Asim Munir of Pakistan in trying to do something. He spoke with both the president and vice president all night yesterday and came to some conclusions on how he's been able to shepherd both sides into coming to some kind of conclusion about a 48-day ceasefire. This is a long ceasefire, but I don't think Israel is in it.
You made a mention of asking that the entire night you were speaking to the president and the vice president. Now, a few days back when this negotiations were happening in Islamabad, at that point of time, we all were discussing the fact that those talks weren't very fruitful. It didn't have any tangible results. Now, but why do you think is Pakistan taking so much of interest? What is Pakistan's interest in investing so much into this Iran, Israel, and America war?
That's a very difficult question, but a good question that you asked. And the fact of the matter is that Iran has a neighbor in Pakistan, and the Sistan, Baluchistan, and Sistan province both touch each other. And there were talk about the rate going from Pakistan into Iran on one side from United States of America. That would have destroyed relationship. In fact, Larjani was security advisor in the Supreme Council. He had said in so many words that Pakistan has a clean check from our side if they can encash it whenever they want. So there is a good relationship between Pakistan and Iran to some extent. And similarly, there's been a warming of relationship between Pakistan and US. If we have seen when we have derided much to the if you look at it from the point of view of the Pakistanis, Asim Munir has been called, or Pakistan has been called dalal and broker and by India because they refuse to submit to our expectation of how you should conduct themselves, and India will refuse to be a broker in this deal. So there is, I think, a certain relationship there is between Pakistan and Iran and Pakistan and US, and they are, I think, eminently qualified to strike a deal between the two of them. And if that happens, I think it will raise the profile of Pakistan quite a bit. In fact, they would be appreciated not just by the two countries which are at war with each other, but also by the rest of the world, because this is a war that impacts not just one country, but many other small and big nations, because Strait of Hormuz is getting locked up, and there are many other countries that get hurt by the rising cost of oil and LPG. And that, in a certain way, promises to be a deal which will allow people to breathe easy and the stock market to breathe easy once again. So I think Mr. Trump will also benefit from that.
Right. Just a short while back, there's a little update which is coming on Al Jazeera, which says that Abbas Araghchi of Iran and Jean Noel Barrett of France, they spoke on the phone today, and there's a statement carried by the Iran semi-official Tasnim news agency reports regarding U.S. President Donald Trump's threats to hit civilian infrastructure in Iran if it does not open the Strait of Hormuz. That's what Araghchi has said. This threat amounts to normalizing war crimes and genocide, and if carried out, it will undoubtedly face a decisive and comprehensive response from the armed forces of the Islamic Republic of Iran. This is what Araghchi has said. Now, why do you think Araghchi is holding talks with France? Is France in any position to influence or change Israel and America's mind, Sanjay?
I don't know. I think that differences between France and US have become very apparent. In fact, if you look at it, President Trump called the president of France somebody whose wife doesn't treat him very well. He has been rather nasty about it. In fact, there's been a lot of retaliation coming in from President Macron also, who said in so many words that Europe is a better place to invest, better place to live, and much intellectually sound in comparison to what you have in the US. So there is a certain sparring which is going on between the two sides. And I don't think Europe or France, for that matter, is in a position to influence the US. In fact, what we are seeing at the moment is a rupturing of the relationship that was between the two Atlantic partners. US wants to part ways with the NATO forces and with Europe, and it will have implications. I don't know how they will. This is another deal that will have to be done by Mr. Trump if he has any desire to restore whatever he's broken. He's been like a bull in a china shop, broken everything that he doesn't agree with. He has been very nasty towards Europe, which has stood through thick and thin during all this time. But now we are going to see something truly dramatic. There may be parting of ways between the US and the Europe, for that matter.
Right. But I wonder what sort of ceasefire is Donald Trump talking about, or what sort of ceasefire are these allied nations are thinking about, or whether it is Pakistan or Turkey or Egypt? Because what the updates are coming is that, according to the Iran's Tasnim news agency, a petrochemical plant in Asalue, which including Jam and Damawan, were targeted. Now, these are all projects which are in Iran and they have been attacked. Then, similarly, Mobin and Damawand companies, which supplied electricity, water, and oxygen to Asaloya petrochemical plants, have been targeted. Pars petrochemical is safe and has not been damaged, but continuously the attacks are happening. Iran is being attacked, and similarly, the missile and drone attacks are happening in Israel. So, how are these nations even thinking of a peace plan or some sort of a ceasefire when there is no relenting on either side, Sanjay?
I agree with you, but the ceasefire between US and Iran will make a difference. What if US decides to back off? And that is what is being talked about, that they take a step back and Iran takes a step back. And this will be between the US and Iran. And Israel may not matter because Israel will automatically back off. And I think even Iran is not asking for any kind of ceasefire between Iran and Israel for that matter. So that would be a major improvement if that happens. But the truth is that Iran has not been able to uh, hurt Israel as much as it wanted because of the many 5 or 6 layers of protection the Israeli government has. And although they've been able to rattle them quite a bit, people are scurrying all the time in shelters and trying to stay away from the debris that may be falling from intercepted missiles. But the truth is that Israel has had a really rough time in the last many days, but they're still protected because of all this. And they may be in a position to launch many attacks later on if the US, goes soft on them. The US has to also not just sign a deal with Iran, but also tell Israel to go off, back into trenches and back into barracks, whatever it is the phrase goes. So only then things are going to quieten down. But I agree, as of now, the bombing continues. So on all sides, Iran is also bombing everybody, and so is Israel for that matter. But the harm will come if the US starts.
According to what
Sorry?
Donald Trump I'm saying, according to what Donald Trump tweeted yesterday on Truth Social, that it's going to be a day which is going to be wrapped in one. That is, the electricity grid and the bridges will be attacked. Now, do you think, you were saying that America might think of backing off? So, are they going to back off, or are they going to escalate it further? Because if you remember, just few days ago, he said that America will be striking hard in the coming 2 to 3 weeks. That's what Trump's address to the nation was all about.
I mean, my contention all through has been that US would be not be backing off, and they will go ahead and bash Iran. But in the last 2 3 days, what really saw was something very interesting. That you had a F-15 plane that fell down that was seemingly brought down by the Iranian forces, and there was a big rescue operation which was launched by the United States of America against for search of a pilot. For quite a while, people did not know whether a plane had fallen. They did not know whether the pilot had got into the enemy territory. The questions are now being asked: that how did the pilot actually end up in Iran territory, and that too somewhere very close to the Isfahan and other areas where there's tremendous patrolling by Iran, and these are very heavily policed areas and heavily looked after by defense forces. But the truth is that he got in, and there was so much of firepower and air power that was used by US to somehow get into it and take him out. In fact, they found that there was an airfield in Isfahan, unused airfield, which is so difficult to believe, which they used. The buzz is that this was an operation which was launched by US to take out the 200 or 300 kgs of uranium, which has been missing, 400 kgs, I think, of uranium, which has been missing from the place where it should have been in Iran. And that I don't think the US has really succeeded in that enterprise. So the other explanation is that US wanted to use that experience to somehow find whether they can attack Iran this phase or not. So it hasn't really happened, but the fact of the matter is that it is something that has chastened Mr. Trump quite a bit, and he has made to look at other options which are there, including a ceasefire, which his good friend General Asim Munir has been able to broker or cobble together. And if that succeeds, he'll be grateful to Mr. Munir, primarily because that gives him another option.
Absolutely. In fact, I was reading that Donald Trump has given an interview with to Axio, and where Trump has said that there was a good chance that US and Iran could come to a deal by Tuesday. And also added that if they don't make a deal, I'm blowing up everything over there. This is what he says to Axio. Then he made similar comments in an interview to ABC News, where he said that if Iran doesn't come to a deal, we are blowing up the whole country. Now, these conflicting statements by Donald Trump. I mean, is he interested in totally blowing up Iran, or is he really wanting to back off? And how is Israel going to react in all of this? Do you think that Israel wants to end the war?
I don't think Israel was ever keen to end the war. In fact, all through the submission was that Israel wants US to continue. In fact, they want a long-term war, which diminishes Iran quite a bit and raises the profile of of Israel in that region. So if you look at it in the Middle East, there'll be only one power which is still standing, and others would be part of the Abraham Accord of people who are close to Israel. The only two powers that were opposed to Israel was Syria, which has been ground to dust, and now you have Iran, where Iran was in fact far more powerful. And all this while, Israel and Mr. Trump, Mr. Netanyahu, for the last 40 years, had been pleading that they are likely to have a nuclear weapon. So please ensure that they get bombed out. So if that happens, they would not want the government of Tehran to go away. They would want it to be there, because totally delegitimized and diminished, and they would want the war to continue for some time longer. And if that happens, that will be the Israeli objective. If the war comes to an end, it'll be what the Americans want, because they can't carry on further. And people have begun to call Mr. Trump a madcap. Somebody is so unstable. They're also moved to see whether there is a constitutional provision they can bring it down because somebody lost his nuts. And the kind of abuses that he has used and how he's hurling
in fact, U.S. Senator Chris Murphy did mention the fact that I'm wondering why people are not talking about the 25th Amendment, and he's absolutely unhinged. And especially after seeing the post which was put out on Truth Social, that's what Chris Murphy said. So, what do you think is going to be the reaction of the Americans, especially after this post? Do you think that Donald Trump really is in a position to face the midterm elections?
I think it will take a lot of spin doctoring. They would hope that the war comes to an end and he gets another 4 or 5 months to play around the minds of the people and to look. The belief is that they managed to play it up quite a bit, and they think that by rescuing that so-called pilot, they may have covered themselves with glory. But the real truth is still under wraps, because in the fog of war, you don't even know what may have happened. So this is a really tricky issue that people don't talk about it. But the ceasefire, if that happens, that'll be happening at the behest of the Americans. They would be the ones who are very keen that ceasefire happens. And if Asim Munir's proposals have been really accepted, it's because the Americans are keen on a ceasefire. If they are not keen on a ceasefire, it would not have been allowed. I mean, the fact of the matter is that Netanyahu is not the one who would want it. He, as I told you very categorically, he and Israel would want that the war carries on some more time, when Iran becomes a shadow of his former self. And then they will want to uphold the flag, enlarge whatever Ambassador Huckabee of the United States has said, enlarge their borders, take over Lebanon, take over some other areas and new territories, and become bigger. The greater Israel dream would be fulfilled if they are allowed to do it.
Right. But I wonder that what he's already having a very low popularity rating in America. And do you think that Donald Trump is of a nature where he's going to admit to the fact that he indulged in war crimes, or he's going to apologize? What can we expect in today's press conference? Is it going to be the announcement of the ceasefire? Is it going to be about America backing off, or is it about some other thing? I have no idea really, because Trump's address to the nation, similarly, everybody was glued to it, but that was more like a status quoist address. So, what can we expect today, Sanjay?
Nilu, what he would probably use this occasion is to show that it's been a win for US. That is undeniable because he cannot even fathom be backing off from a situation where he may be on the defensive. He would say that he has won, he's destroyed, he's met all the objectives, and there are four objectives which were stated by Marco Rubio: militarily diminish, every which way. The four of them, I don't remember all of them, but they were militarily. It had to do with diminishing their power, the power of Iran. And I think they have, in a certain way, succeeded in doing that, despite the fact that Iran continues to shower missiles on its opponents, on Israel, on other countries which do not fall in line. But the truth is that they have no naval power. They have no other power that you can think of. It's a very dismal situation that Mr. Trump has created. And as some people keep on saying, that he only sees what is shown to him, and that is called something called, as they say, war porn. And he's used to seeing only that. And that is a failing of the entire system, of not just Mr. Trump and that of other people who are in power, that they don't get to know the truth. And that is where Mr. Trump will prosper. And today, if he has a press conference, he will say that he has won. And Iran would be wise enough to say, no, you haven't won, we have won. So there could be a trade-off on that. And let's see whether that will convince Mr. Trump to sit idle or to bomb Iran once again.
You were also talking about the big rescue mission which America undertook. Now, can there be a possibility where he's going to talk big about this rescue operation deep inside Iran, and how? And there were reports also that America has spent crores and crores of money, and especially in dollars. America has spent a huge amount of money in just rescuing this crew person, so that they can tell back home that, look, we are there for our people, and we confronted all sorts of dangers to save our own people. So could he talk big about in his press conference tonight about this rescue mission also?
Yeah, why not? That's something that he has to show and flaunt. But the truth is that people are questioning about how he can do it. In fact, there are some former CIA agents and others who have tweeted that this is not what Mr. Trump could have done. He has spent almost 800 crores in this operation, and he has gone around doing it. Nobody does it like that, and nobody sends so many aircrafts to rescue one person. And initially, there was a belief that the first coded message that they got from the pilot, it seemed to be somebody from the Arab world or somebody from the Persian world talking about Allah and God and all that. So they were not very sure whose message it was. But after they managed to extricate him, then there was a tweet from Mr. Trump on social that we've got it, and he probably told the reporter whom he gave an interview. I think it was Fox News he spoke with. And he said, we got him and we tried to save him and we will always go. So in a certain way, that incident has made him look better than what he is. And I think it will be easy for him to sell this to his large number of followers in MAGA and other parts of the world.
No, but tomorrow being Monday, like Monday morning, when we are when it's 10:30 p.m. for us, when he's going to hold the press conference, is that press conference to influence the market as well? Because after the Easter Monday morning, when the markets open up, is he going to have something better or good for the markets to feel about or cheer about?
No, surely this will have an impact on the market. But if you remember, just before the U.S. stock market went on a holiday, there was a he had done a similar kind of made a suggestion that the war was ending, and he thought that the stock market will start soaring once again. But nothing really happened. I think people want to see whether he walks the talk, and without that, I don't think it will really make an impact. I think there'll be some serious show of effort to when it comes to peace. If it doesn't happen, the stock market will just sit there and watch him till the time some more tangible results are emerging out of the conversation between the two sides.
One last question, Sanjay, before I wind up the show. That so far the strategy of Iran looks very, very focused and centered. They know that they have nothing to lose. They've already lost so much, but it's their grit and determination which is taking them ahead. Now, the final strategy of Iran, does it look like that they are deliberately trying to provoke Donald Trump so that he goes to further extents of indulging in war crimes so that his own popularity dips, the world starts despising him, people start talking more negatively about Donald Trump than what they are already doing? So is this the Iran's final strategy?
Iran's strategy is, first of all, to ensure that Mr. Trump and Mr. Netanyahu are not on the same page. They look in two different directions. They don't get along together. So their attempt is to do that. If they succeed, I think a lot of things will fall in place, and they seem to be heading in that direction. If that doesn't happen, there would be a cause for worry, because Iran has done very well in terms of trying to tell Mr. Trump that we are not afraid of you. You may kill us, but it hardly really matters, because it's a matter of pride and national love for our country. And there have been reports which are coming in the media about how many Iranian nationals are returning to Iran. And some of them, a famous filmmaker has said, the truth is that I have only one passport and one nationality, that's Iranian. So I'm back in Iran. He was given a pardon by the government. So there are innumerable stories of valor, of individual love for the country, and others which are trying to give an impression that the fight is between justice and a country which is violative of the rule of law, which is doing war crimes and doing a great harm to the international order. And I think the world is on the side of the Iran at the moment.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Sanjay, for joining on HW News. Thank you.
Thank you.